hospitals, isolation and quarantine facility, disease surveillance and testing, ensuring availability of essential medical equipment, augmenting human resource and capacity building, supply chain and logistic management, coordination with private sector, economic and welfare measures, information, communication and public awareness, technology and data management, public grievance and strategic issues related to lockdown. These groups have recently been restructured on 10th of September based on the need and also the evolving scenario. My own ministry is constantly reviewing the evolving scenario. Video conferences are being held with states regularly. We have held 63 video conferences so far with state health ministers, health functionaries and district level officials. The Joint Monitoring Group under the chairmanship of the Director General Health Services, which advises the Ministry on technical matters, has met 40 times till now to assess the risk and review the preparedness and response mechanisms and finalize technical guidelines. Government of India, based on the experience of successfully managing pandemics and epidemics in the past, provided the requisite strategy, plans and procedures to the state governments and UT administrations. This includes containment plans and guidelines on a wide range of subjects related to travel, behavioral and psychosocial health, surveillance, laboratory support, hospital infrastructure, clinical management, rational use of personal protective equipment, PPEs, including inspirational guidance for healthcare personnel. Government of India has also taken several other measures to contain, suppress the transmission of COVID. First travel advisory was issued on 17th January 2020, and as situation evolved, the travel advisories were revised in a graded manner. Universal screening of passengers from all countries was introduced, and up to 23rd March 2020, till the suspension of all the commercial flights, a total of 14,154 flights with 15,24,266 passengers were screened at the airports. In addition to airports, about 16.31 lakh persons were screened at land border crossings and about 86,379 persons were screened at 12 major and 65 minor seaports. Presently, Government of India has advised no scheduled international commercial passenger aircraft be allowed to take off from any foreign airport for any airport in India from March 22, 2020, except under Vande Bharat mission on May 7, 2020, which aims to bring back home stranded Indians in many countries due to COVID-19 pandemic. Temporary air travel arrangements, transport bubbles between India and 9 other mutually consenting countries aimed at restarting commercial passenger services have commenced. They are reciprocal in nature. Many airlines from both countries enjoy similar benefits. Guidelines for international arrivals have also been issued by the Ministry on 24th May 2020, which were revised on 2nd of August 2020. Prior to the lockdown 1.0, Government of India evacuated Indian nationals from Wuhan in China, Diamond Princess cruise ship in Japan, Iran, Italy and Malaysia under Vande Bharat mission as reported on 11th September 2020. A total of 12,69,172 passengers have been brought back to India. Community surveillance was initiated initially for travel-related cases and subsequently for cases being reported from community by Integrated Disease Surveillance Program. As on 11th September 2020, a total of about 40 lakh persons have been kept under surveillance and extensive contact tracing for all positive cases, which is regularly being undertaken through disease surveillance network so as to break the chain of transmission. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare released containment plans to contain cluster and large outbreaks on 2nd March and 4th April 2020 respectively, and these plans were updated from time to time. The containment plans envisage a strategy of breaking the chain of transmission by defining containment and buffer zones, applying strict perimeter control, intensive active house-to-house search for cases and contacts, isolation and testing of suspect cases and high-risk contacts, quarantine of high-risk contacts, intensive risk communication to raise community awareness on simple preventive measures, and need for prompt treatment seeking and strengthening of passive influenza-like illness, that is severe acute respiratory illness, SARI surveillance in containment and buffer zones. With the evolving scenario, laboratory network is continuously being strengthened from a situation of a single laboratory equipped to undertake testing for COVID in January. Presently, 1,705 laboratories are conducting COVID-19 testing. Laboratories have been established in difficult terrains like Ladakh, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, as well as other northeastern states, Lakshadweep and Andaman Nicobar Islands. Currently, the testing is about 1 million tests a day, which translates to 720 tests per million population per day, much higher than that stipulated by WHO, which is 140 tests per million population per day. A total of 5,51,89,226 samples have been tested so far as on 11th of September 2020. While there were no indigenous manufacturers of laboratory diagnostics or testing machines for COVID, today we have an indigenous production capacity of more than 10 lakh kits per day. For appropriate management of COVID-19 cases, a three-tier arrangement of health facilities, that is COVID care center with isolation beds for mild or pre-symptomatic cases, dedicated COVID health centers with oxygen-supported isolation beds for moderate cases, and dedicated COVID hospitals with ICU beds for severe cases have been implemented. Tertiary care hospitals under ESI Corporation, Defense, Railways, paramilitary forces, Steel Ministry, etc. have also been leveraged for case management. As on 12th September 2020, a total of 15,284 COVID treatment facilities with 13,14,646 dedicated isolation beds without oxygen have been created. Also a total of 2,31,093 oxygen-supported isolation beds and 62,717 ICU beds, including 32,575 ventilator beds have been created. Constant monitoring of the disease trend, analysis of available infrastructure, and planning in advance for the future has averted a major crisis as was faced by many developed countries. In addition, a total of 12,826 quarantine centers with 5,98,811 beds have also been created. Guidelines on clinical management of COVID-19 were issued and regularly updated and widely circulated. These include case definition, prevention of infection control, laboratory diagnosis, early supporting therapy, management of severe cases and complications. No specific antivirals have been proven effective so far. Symptomatic treatment for fever and cough, appropriate rehydration, supplemental oxygen therapy remains the mainstay of treatment. We have repurposed the drug hydroxychloroquine for mild but high-risk cases and for moderate cases. This was done with limited scientific evidence, but well acknowledging that this drug has been used widely in India for other ailments where it is used for prolonged periods of time with good safety profile. In addition, provisions for investigational therapies have also been made for using remdesivir, convalescent plasma, and also tocilizumab for managing severe cases under close medical supervision. With the intent to ensure dissemination of these standard treatment protocols and reduce mortality to maximum extent, a number of initiatives have been launched, and AIIMS Corona Helpline 9971876591 has been started to guide the doctors on medical management. AIIMS Delhi is running the COVID-19 National Teleconsultation Center contact, which can be reached by calling 9115444155. It is catering to doctors from anywhere in the country who want to consult AIIMS faculty for the management of COVID-19 patients as well as to the public in general. Telemedicine guidelines have also been issued on 25th March 2020 to provide teleconsultation to patients for mitigation of their illness and prevention of crowding in clinics. It may also help in triage, treatment and counseling for care of ill patients by healthcare providers in areas with limited access. A clinical center of excellence initiative has also been launched by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare with AIIMS Delhi as the apex nodal institution and state-level clinical centers of excellence to provide guidance on clinical management protocols. Weekly webinars are being organized by AIIMS to guide these state-level centers of excellence on crucial clinical issues that doctors may require guidance on managing COVID cases. These state-level centers of excellence are expected to further disseminate these in their districts to ensure accessibility of quality treatment for both COVID and non-COVID health issues to far-flung areas. Use of telemedicine has been promoted in a big way. eSanjeevani, a web-based comprehensive telemedicine solution, is being utilized in 23 states to extend the reach of specialized healthcare services to masses in both rural areas and isolated communities. ICMR is establishing a national clinical registry on COVID that will provide insights into clinical course of COVID-19 disease, its spectrum and outcome of patients. 13 clinical trials of repurposed drugs and harnessing of traditional knowledge using the modern medicine approach are building a portfolio of therapeutic options for COVID-19 patients. Phase 2 clinical trial of immunomodulator Cefsivac has been completed successfully. Phase 2 clinical trial of the first ever phytopharmaceutical ACQH is underway. 1 prophylactic trial of ashwagandha and 3 trials of Guduchi, Pipali, Yashti Madhu and polyherbal Ayush drug Ayush 64 are planned on moderately ill COVID-19 patients. An effective vaccine would be the sure tool in the armamentarium against disease. On this front, globally there are around 145 vaccine candidates in preclinical evaluation and currently 35 vaccines in clinical trial. In India, a major focus has been on facilitating the development of COVID-19 vaccine. More than 30 vaccine candidates have been supported, which are in different stages of development. 3 candidates are in advanced stage of phase 1, phase 2 or phase 3 trial, and more than 4 are in advanced preclinical development stage. COVID-19 biorepositories have been set up, which have collected more than 40,000 samples, which have been made available to researchers and industry for developing diagnostics, therapeutics and vaccines. To coordinate procurement and distribution of COVID vaccine, Government of India has constituted a national expert group on vaccine administration for COVID-19 on 7th of August 2020 under the chairmanship of Member Health Niti Aayog. Ministry of Ayush has contributed through various measures for the management and mitigation of COVID-19. The ministry recommended guidelines of self-care for preventive health measures and boosting immunity. Ministry of Ayush has also issued health advisories from different systems of medicine on prophylaxis and immunity promotion, which was translated into 8 foreign languages and circulated to Indian embassies. Various Ayush hospitals were designated as quarantine centers, isolation centers, COVID care centers and COVID health centers. Around 8.5 lakh Ayush healthcare professionals have been registered on covidwarriors.gov.in Ministry of Ayush has formed an interdisciplinary Ayush R&D task force. The task force has formulated and designed clinical research protocols for Ayush prophylactic studies and add-on interventions in COVID-19 positive cases. Ayush CSIR collaborative studies were initiated with Ayush medicines for prophylaxis/treatment. A large-scale population-based study through Ayush Research Councils and National Institutes under the Ministry on prophylaxis of Ayush interventions in targeted populations in containment zones is underway. Ministry of Ayush has also initiated impact assessment of effectiveness, acceptance and usage of Ayush advisories and measures in prevention of COVID-19 through a mobile application known as Ayush Sanjeevani app. States have been requested to assess the stock of their logistics, particularly personal protective equipment, and procure the same. Total orders for 1.92 crore PPEs have been placed by the central government so far. The ministry has already supplied 1.39 crore PPE kits and 3.43 crore N95 masks to states as on 11th of September 2020. Department of Pharmaceuticals increased with the production of drug hydroxychloroquine manifold. As on 11th of September 2020, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has issued 10.84 crore tablets of hydroxychloroquine to states and the UTs. India has also exported it to more than 140 countries. The central government has already issued orders to purchase 60,948 ventilators to meet any contingencies. As on 11 September 2020, 32,109 ventilators have been allocated to states, of which 30,170 have been delivered. The country is self-sufficient in oxygen and oxygen cylinders. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has procured and supplied 1,02,400 oxygen cylinders to various states and UTs so far. In addition, oxygen concentrators are also being supplied to states. One of the major challenges was to identify and train a large number of COVID warriors across sectors and departments that can be involved in not only COVID-related work, but also for ensuring maintenance of other essential medical services. Pooling manpower resources has been done from Defence, Ayush, NCC, NSS, NYK, public sector enterprises and private sector. In spite of various constraints and challenges, the COVID warriors rose to the occasion in serving humanity. The country feels indebted to the doctors, nurses, paramedics, frontline field workers, security and police personnel, sanitation workers, volunteers and journalists who have worked tirelessly to protect our countrymen from COVID. I would request the August House to place on record the appreciation for the human services delivered by them. There have been instances where healthcare service personnel had to face harassment, acts of violence, intimidation and danger to life during discharge of their duties. To overcome this and support their efforts, Government of India promulgated Epidemic Diseases Amendment Ordinance 2020 on 22nd April 2020. To build the capacities of human resources, including the medical manpower who help managing patients in hospitals, as well as non-medical personnel and field workers involved in surveillance, logistics, etc. Modules have been made available on iGOT Diksha online platform by DOPT. The training modules have been translated to regional languages. Close to 29.15 lakh people have registered for various courses. This includes 5,699 doctors, 86,018 Ayush professionals, 4,102 nurses, 963 allied health professionals, 5,881 frontline workers, 2,70,736 volunteers, and 25,42,892 other participants. About 18.96 lakh course completions have taken place on iGOT Diksha platform. Training resources for medical and non-medical personnel have also been made available on the website of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. We have now moved from managing travel-related cases to containing clusters and large outbreaks due to local transmission to widespread of infection to urban, peri-urban and rural areas. This would require concerted effort by the government with people's participation to prevent large-scale morbidity and mortality. Equally crucial is to maintain the success achieved in management of reproductive, maternal and child health, vaccine-preventable diseases, non-communicable diseases, tuberculosis, vector-borne diseases such as Kala Azar and malaria. Hence, there is an increased thrust for managing non-COVID essential services. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare website is being updated daily to provide general public with information on current status of COVID-19 spread in India. Regular press releases are being issued and press briefings are being held. Communication material and toolkits have been developed, pamphlets, posters, audio and AV films, and they are provided to the states and duties also on COVID-19 disease. Preventive steps required to be taken by the communities, handling of myths and stigma related to disease, and to widely publicize the helpline numbers available. Communication material is also being hosted on Ministry of Health and Family Welfare website and through social media. Do's and don'ts are being widely circulated through SMS. 550 crore SMSs have been sent. Caller tune messages are being sent to telecom subscribers in 13 languages and 117 crore subscribers have been reached. A dedicated call center helpline 1075 had been started in the initial days to guide community at large, which is being used by the citizens very effectively and on a regular basis. A total of 41.04 have been received so far. Department of Biotechnology, Department of Science and Technology, CSIR and Department of Health Research covers the entire chain of scientific and technological solutions holistically for COVID-19 through academia, R&D labs, industry, startups and NGOs. These solutions include basic scientific studies on the behavior, transmission and effects of virus, mathematical modeling of the pandemic and products such as the world-class ventilators, diagnostic kits, vaccines, therapeutics, antiviral coatings, disinfectants, PPEs, masks, mobile testing booths and hospitals, artificial intelligence-based tools and information dissemination to masses. For these purposes, a comprehensive mapping of our entire startup ecosystem was done to identify and support over 110 technology startups and over 20 industries for commercial production. Over 150 projects in all areas of virus behavior have been initiated. Government of India is regularly coordinating with WHO headquarters, regional office and the country office to get update on the evolving scenario. Government of India has also provided support to other countries in tackling the challenge posed by the COVID. India has played a major role in shaping up G20 and BRICS response to COVID. India is also extending support wherever required to neighboring SAARC countries. The government is proactively identifying gaps and building an Atmanirbhar Bharat that will be able to take challenge of similar pandemics, epidemics and disasters in future. And an expenditure finance memorandum of 65,560.98 crores under Prime Minister Atmanirbhar Swasth Bharat Yojana for strengthening is already under consideration. This includes investment in research, healthcare and public health infrastructure with particular focus on pandemic management. I would urge all the honorable members of Parliament that battle for COVID is still far from over. On one hand, when we are in the stage of unlock, so as to revive the economy and have a balanced approach, it is important that sustained community support is ensured consistently to control the spread of COVID infection and break its chain of transmission. Your support is crucial to create awareness in your respective constituencies for COVID-appropriate behavior. The simple public health measures of wearing of mask, face covers, frequent hand washing, respiratory etiquettes, and physical distancing of 2 gaj ki duri as a social vaccine, if practiced in a responsible manner, will help us in controlling and suppressing the transmission of COVID. Sir, I wish to inform this House once again that the government is taking all necessary measures to prevent the spread of COVID in India. Thank you.
Please. See, I have received around 10 requests for asking clarifications and giving suggestions. So what I am thinking is that we have another 25 minutes and we can go ahead with this thing, or we take it up separately and we have discussion that way. We have to decide. Once we take separate discussion, say for an hour or 1.5 hours, then I will not have the clarifications now, because you can't have both because the paucity of time. So, no. Right. Okay. We will take the Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda Bill 2020. All these members who are interested, please, who are all interested, they can take part tomorrow while I will give an opportunity. Definitely. Because this is a matter while doubts of everybody has to be dispelled. Suggestions from me, because you are all people's representatives, they should be taken note by the central government and by the state government, because this COVID is a battle where you have to fight both central as well as state. Yes, please. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Qualifications and response from the minister will go together. Then Dr. Harshavardhan Ji, Institute of Teaching and Research Ayurveda Bill, to move a motion.
Okay, sir.
Please.
Sir, on behalf of my colleague, Shri Shripad Nayak Ji, I rise to move that the Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda Bill 2020, as passed by the Lok Sabha, be taken into consideration.
Motion moved. The members who will desire to speak, they will do so. After that, the minister will reply. But there is another bill also which we have combined. This one? So now, we start discussion.
Minister wants to say something.
If the Honorable Minister wants to say something in the beginning, please.
Yes, sir, I can just briefly apprise the House, sir, that this is basically...
Pura Santi, people who have got some work, they can go. Not Santanu Hussain, Santi. He was going out, he just started coming in. Please.
Sir, this bill is about creation of a new Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda in Jamnagar, and this institute has to be given and declared as an institute of national importance. That is the crux of the bill, and this institute is being formed with the conglomeration of 3 institutions. One is the Institute of Postgraduate Teaching and Research in Ayurveda in Jamnagar, which is already a part of the Gujarat Ayurveda University and right now funded by the Government of India. Then there is another Ayurveda Mahavidyalaya in Jamnagar by the name Shri Gulab Kund Varda, and then another Indian Institute of Ayurvedic Pharmaceutical Sciences in Jamnagar. Sir, all these institutes are combining together to create this institution, and this is for promotion of quality and excellence in education in Ayurveda, and also to promote research and training in Ayurveda and allied disciplines. So briefly, the history is that in 19, this is the oldest, one of the oldest institutions in India, was created in 1952 as Central Institute of Research in Indigenous Systems of Medicine. Then in 1956, Government of India...
Harshvardhan ji, be brief. We are not going to a total background.
Okay, sir. So I'll just then only mention that
It is a commendable job.
this is going to be the first institution in the country in the field of Ayurveda to be given a status of an institution of national importance. This is the oldest in the country in the government sector. 10% of the total research publications in Ayurveda belong to this institution. This is the only center in the world on Ayurveda which is a WHO collaborating center. Then, sir, this is the first institution where the pharmacovigilance in Ayurveda, Siddha and Unani drugs was started, and it has been doing an excellent work. 30 MOUs at national and international levels have been signed and are under active working. And this is the only institution where PhD and PG courses are available.
Right.
Then, sir, a few more points, sir. And this institution has made many treatment protocols and training guidelines for the whole country. In 20 years, students from 65 countries have come here to study. And just to give you an example, sir, the human resource of the highest level and stature produced by the institution and have been produced by the institution, just to name a few, the present Secretary of the Ayush Government of India, the Director of the All India Institute of Ayurveda, the DG of Research Councils, Director of National Institute of Ayurveda in Jaipur, and many others. All these top people, they have been, so sir, this is one of the very prestigious...
You can give further information while responding to the discussion, Dr. Sir.
I will request the honorable members that this is a first attempt in the country to give this type of recognition to an Ayurveda institution which has already attained an international stature, and this is a very humble beginning from the Department of Ayush for promotion of Ayurveda and using Ayurveda for research and for promoting care for the people.
Dr. L. Hanumantaya. Hanumantaya ji कहाँ बैठे? लोकसभा Hanumantaya ji. Dr. L. Hanumantaya.
I'm in Lok Sabha chamber.
Yes, please speak from the Lok Sabha chamber.
Yes, sir.
You have time for the remaining part of the day. Please
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
conclude that.
Sir, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. The Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda Bill 2020. Sir, the bill seeks to merge 3 Ayurveda institutes which are working in Jamnagar. Number 1, Institute of Postgraduate Teaching and Research in Ayurveda, that is in Jamnagar. Sri Gulab Kunwarba Ayurvedic Mahavidyalaya, which is in Jamnagar. Indian Institute of Ayurvedic Pharmaceutical Sciences, which is also in Jamnagar. Sir, the background of it, which the bill says, the aim of establishing this institute is to provide international level of education and training in Ayurveda, keeping in mind the growing demand for the services and knowledge across the world. Sir, it is true that we should agree, Ayurveda is an ancient medical system in use by local practitioners, and it was called local medicine. Sir, it is facing a big challenge after the scientific medicine developed. Sir, though there are references in Veda also, it is mainly the traditional practice by our rural practitioners where there was no scientific medical system. Sir, but today there are certain areas where
the other system of medicine is also not completely successful, but in most use, the Ayurveda and homeopathy still exists in India particularly. Sir, in India, after allopathy, the second place is for homeopathy and third place is for Ayurveda, which people are practicing. Sir, the aim of the institution of national importance, which the government says to bring this bill, I have a doubt, what are the guidelines for a national importance institute which you are going to establish now? And how it is different from the other universities which are already into research, and how this is above that universities is my question. Sir, it is true, Ayurvedic products across the world is in business about $10 billion by 2022 is an estimate. According to that, we have to improve the Ayurvedic medicines, Ayurvedic practices, and to improve Ayurvedic medicines and Ayurvedic practices, probably we have to work on Ayurvedic teaching and the research. Sir, bringing together educational facilities for training of personnel in all the branches of Ayurveda is good, but to attain self-sufficiency in postgraduate level and undergraduate level, it needs the specialists and teachers in Ayurveda. Sir, there is in the country the shortage of Ayurveda teachers in postgraduate level, and the research also is not being done at the expected level. So to make in-depth study and research in the field of Ayurveda, the government says that this bill will going to help, this institute will going to help. Sir, as per the composition of this institute according to the bill provides that the institute will consist of 15 members. Sir, Minister of Ayush will be the member of that institute. Secretary of the Ayush Ministry will be the member of the institute, and Secretary of Health and Family Welfare of Gujarat government will be the member of this institute. Director General of Central Council for Research in Ayurveda is also a member here, and they will going to nominate 3 experts who are working in the field of Ayurveda. And it is very good and welcoming step is 3 MPs going to be nominated in this institute as members. 2 from Lok Sabha and 1 from Rajya Sabha. I fully agree with the MPs being the members of this Ayurveda Institute. Sir, the governing body, the bill says, Director of the Institute of PG Teaching and Research will be the Director of the Institute. And he will be the Chairman of the governing body also. Sir, I have a strong doubt. When a minister is member in this body, governing body, and the Director of the Research Institute will be the Director of the governing body, how the Director will work when the Minister and the Secretary is the members of this body? That doubt I wanted to clarify by the Minister. Sir, the functions of this institute says it provides UG and PG teaching in Ayurveda, prescribed curriculum and courses including pharmacy, UG and PG, provides facilities for research in Ayurveda, conduct examinations and grant degrees, diploma, certificates, all this which a university almost doing that will be done by this institute which is of national importance. And maintain, it says, maintain well-equipped colleges and hospitals in Ayurveda and pharmacists, nurses and supporting staff. This is what the bill says. I have certain doubts on this, sir. I'll come to that point again. Sir, there is already an Ayurveda university in Gujarat. When there is an Ayurveda university in Jamnagar itself, why this should not be merged with the university and provide all the facilities to that university and make this an institute under the university? And what is the necessity that when there is an Ayurveda university in Jamnagar itself, and the government will going to merge all the three institutes and make a separate national importance institute? That is my question. So while making the national importance, institute of national importance, nobody